Good morning, everyone. Our topic of today is normal diet. So, what do we understand by the term normal diet? Normal diet or healthy diet. It is the diet which helps in maintaining or improving our overall health. A healthy diet, it provides the body with essential nutrients, fluids, macronutrients, micronutrients, and adequate amount of the calories. So, a healthy diet, it helps in maintaining our overall health. So, under this heading, normal diet, we will discuss breastfeeding, complementary feeding, and balanced diet. So, breastfeeding. Now, breastfeeding, it is the ideal food for the neonates. It's the best gift a mother can give to her baby. Now, breast milk, it contains all the essential nutrients which are required for the normal growth and development of the baby. So, the infant should be exclusively breastfed till 6 months of the age. And breastfeeding should be started within half an hour or within 1 hour after the birth and shall be continued till 6 months of the age. Now, during this phase, means during the breastfeeding phase, additional food or fluid is not required as breast milk is nutritionally complete for the child's growth and development, and it protects from infections and even strengthens the immune system. So, the breast milk, it contains all the essential nutrients and in optimum proportion which are required for the normal growth and development of the baby. Breast milk contains carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals. Even the breastfed baby does not require any additional water even in the summers because breast milk has 88% water content. So no need of giving additional food or fluids or water as breast milk is nutritionally complete. Then breast milk contains many immunoglobulins, macrophages, lymphocytes, lysozymes. So the breastfed babies, they have reduced risk of developing any infections. Now, any according to studies, we have seen that when the baby is breastfed, that baby is approximately 14 times is at reduced risk of developing diarrhea and 4 times less risk of developing respiratory infections. Then breast milk contains many growth factors, enzymes, hormones, and breastfed babies, they have reduced risk of allergy, any other infections like ear infections or orthodontic problems. They have reduced risk of developing diabetes or heart disease in the later life. And the breastfed babies, they are better bounded to their mothers. They have higher IQ level as compared to the babies who are given other forms of the milk. So this is the beneficial points of the breastfeeding. Why breastfeeding is very essential for the infant. Now, cardinal principles of breastfeeding practice. Now, there are basically three cardinal principles of breastfeeding practice. First cardinal principle is initiation of the breastfeeding within an hour after birth. Exclusive breastfeeding up to 6 months of the age, continuation of breastfeeding along with the complementary feeding for up to 2 years of the age. Now, these are the three cardinal principles of practicing breastfeeding. Next, complementary feeding. Now, complementary feeding, the name itself suggests after 6 months of the age, breast milk alone is not enough to make an infant grow well. Means up to 6 months, breast milk is alone sufficient for the normal growth and development of the baby. But after 6 months of the age, only breast milk is not sufficient for the normal growth and development of the baby, and thus complementary feeding is essential. So complementary feeding, it refers to the food which complements the breast milk and ensures that child continues to have enough energy, protein and other nutrients to grow normally. Means in the initial 6 months of the age, only breast milk is sufficient. But after 6 months, only breast milk is not enough for normal growth and development of the baby. So, complementary feeding is required, and complementary feeding is the food which complements the breast milk and makes sure that child continues to have enough energy, child gets enough amount of energy, proteins, and other nutrients to grow normally. So complementary feeding is started at 6 months of the age while in continuation with the breastfeeding. And breastfeeding is encouraged up to 2 years of the age in addition to the normal food. Means breastfeeding is essential up to 6 months of the age, but it is encouraged to continue breastfeeding up to 2 years of the age along with the normal food. Now, till now we have discussed breastfeeding and complementary feeding. Now we will discuss counseling for feeding of the infants and the children. So counseling, how can we counsel the parents for feeding of the infants and the children? So according to the age, we will give advice. For children with age up to 6 months, counseling for the food would be breastfeed the child as often as child wants, day and night, and at least 8 times in 24 hours. Now, this is the counseling for the children up to 6 months of the age. So, breastfeed the baby as often as the child wants and breastfeed the baby day and night. Now, breastfeeding the baby at night is very essential because prolactin is produced during the night time. So, breastfeeding during night is very important for the maintenance of the prolactin reflex, that is milk secretion reflex. So, breastfeed the baby at least 8 times in 24 hours. Do not give any other food, no water, no fluids. Point of remembrance is continue breastfeeding even if the child is sick. So this is the advice we have to give to the parents, that the mother should continue breastfeeding even if the child is sick. The mother should not give any other food or fluid, not even water to the baby, and breastfeed the baby as much as he wants. Breastfeed at night and breastfeed the baby at least 8 times in a day. Then counseling for the children from 6 months to 12 months of the age. Food, breastfeed as often as the child wants. Now, after 6 months, complementary feeding is started. So, complementary feeding. Give at least one katori serving at a time of mashed roti, mashed bread, biscuit which is mixed in sweet milk, undiluted milk, mashed roti, mashed rice or bread mashed mixed in thick dal, then add ghee or oil over it, or give khichdi and then add some oil or ghee. So these are the food items which can be given to the child. Then add cooked vegetables in the servings. Means add cooked vegetables in the mashed roti or in mashed bread or in rice. Add cooked vegetables or give sevaiya, dalia, halwa, kheer which is prepared in milk, or any other cereal porridge which is cooked in milk, or give mashed potatoes, boiled potatoes or fried potatoes. Then give snacks in between the serving. Snacks may include banana, biscuit, chiku, mango or papaya. Means give a piece of the fruit as a snack in between the servings. Now frequency of feeding would be 3 times in a day if the baby is breastfeeding. But if the baby is not breastfeeding, then 5 times per day. So the frequency of the meal would be 3 times in 24 hours if the baby is breastfeeding and 5 times in a day if the baby is not breastfeeding. Then point of remembrance is keep the child in your lap and feed with your own hands. Wash your own hands, child hands with soap and water every time before the feeding. Now this is the advice a physician must give to the mother, that the mother should keep the child on her lap, feed the baby with her own hands. Then the mother should wash her own hands, wash child's hands with soap and water every time before feeding. Now, advice for children aged 12 months to 2 years. Food, breastfeed as often as the child wants. Now, here offer food from the family pot. Means whatever the meal is cooked for other family members, from that meal offer some food to the child. Give at least 1.5 katori serving at a time. Now, children from 6 months to 12 months, we were giving 1 katori serving. Now, children from 12 months to 2 years, give at least 1.5 katori serving at a time of mashed roti, mashed rice, or mashed bread mixed in thick dal or khichdi, then add ghee or oil over it. Then add cooked vegetables in the mashed roti, rice, or in khichdi, or mashed roti, rice, bread, biscuit mixed in sweet undiluted milk, or give sevaiya, dalia, halwa, or kheer prepared in the milk, or any cereal porridge cooked in the milk, or give mashed, fried, boiled potatoes. Now, the frequency of the meal would be 5 times in a day. Then, snacks in between the serving, a piece of the chiku, banana, mango, papaya, or biscuit. Now, remembrance advice would be the mother is advised to sit by the side of the child and help him to finish the serving. Wash your child's hand with soap and water every time before the feeding. Means the physician must give advice to the mother that the mother and the father, or only mother, she should sit by the side of the child. She should help the child to finish the food. Wash child's hand with soap and water every time before feeding. Now, advice for children aged 2 years and older. Give family food as 3 meals each day. Whatever the meal is cooked for other family members, offer that food, and the frequency of the meal would be 3 meals per day. Twice daily, also give some snacks in between, nutritious snacks, for example, banana, biscuit, chiku, mango, or papaya. Point to be remember is ensure that child finishes the serving. Teach your child to wash his hands with soap and water every time before the feeding. The mother is advised to teach her child to wash hands with soap and water every time before feeding. Now, balanced diet. Basically, balanced diet is defined as a nutritionally adequate and appropriate intake of the food items that provide all the nutrients in required amount and proper proportion. Balanced diet is a nutritionally adequate and proper intake of the food items. Now, even at 9 months of the age, infant need small proportion of food groups to be included in their diet to make sure that all the macronutrients and micronutrients have been taken by the child. Now, a combination of the carbohydrate rich food, that is any cereal, fruits or vegetable. Protein source would be milk or milk products, pulses, egg, meat, fish, nuts, and fat, oil or ghee. Sugar or salt should be used to make nutritionally adequate complementary food. So basically, balanced diet is a nutritionally adequate and appropriate intake of the food items that provide all the nutrients which are required in appropriate amount and proper proportion. So this is the combination of the carbohydrates, fats, proteins. A balanced diet should be consumed by the children and adolescents to ensure proper growth and development and to stay healthy and remain disease free. Balanced diet contains 55 to 60% calories from carbohydrates, 10 to 12% proteins, and 25 to 30% fats. Now, foods are grouped conventionally as cereals, millets and pulses, vegetables and fruit, milk and milk products, egg, meat, fish, and oils and fats. Now, these are the classification of the food. So, conventionally, foods are grouped into 5 categories: cereals, millets, pulses, fruits and vegetables, milk and milk products, fish, meat, egg, and oils and fats. Now, the cereals, millets, and pulses, they are the major source of the nutrition in the Indian diet. Milk is a good source of protein and calcium. Eggs, flesh food, and fish, they enhance the quality of the diet. Oil and nuts, they are calorie rich food. Vegetables and fruits, they provide vitamins and minerals, fibers, and antioxidants. Now, factors which are to be considered while we are planning food for the child. So these are the 6 cardinal factors which are to be considered while we are planning food for the child. So the first cardinal principle is energy density. So mostly in our Indian diets, we have traditional food. So most of our traditional food, it is bulky, it is very heavy, and it is very difficult for the child to consume large quantity of food at a time. So child cannot eat large quantity at a time. So it is very important to give small energy dense food at frequent interval to ensure adequate energy intake by the child. So energy density. So energy density of the food which is given to the infant and the young children, it can be increased without increasing the bulk by adding a teaspoon of oil or ghee in every feed. Means we don't have to add oil or ghee in every food because that would increase the bulkiness of the food. So we can increase the density of the food, we can increase the energy density of the food without increasing the bulkiness. Means we don't have to make the food heavy because a child cannot eat larger quantity at a time. So we have to give small energy dense food at frequent intervals so that the baby gets adequate amount of the energy. Now, fat. Fat is a concentrated source of energy and increases energy content of the food without increasing the bulk. Means fat does not increase the bulk. It's a concentrated source of energy. Then sugar and jaggery can be added in the infant's food. Then amylase rich food such as malted food. They reduce the viscosity of the food and therefore the child can eat more quantity at a time. Then thin gruels do not provide enough energy. A young infant, particularly during 6 to 9 months, require thick but smooth mixtures. We have discussed that we have to give thick dal or mashed roti or mashed rice or mashed bread. So thin gruels. Now gruel is it's a simple dish which is made by boiling the cereals like oats in water. So thin gruels, they do not provide enough amount of the energy. So during 6 to 9 months of the age, our infant requires thick and smooth mixtures. Amount of the feed at 6 months of the age, feed should be started with small amount. Means at 6 months of the age, initially the feeding should be started with small amount as much as 1 to 2 teaspoons and the quantity should be increased gradually as the child gets older and starts to accept food in a better way. So child should be given time to adapt gradually to larger quantity of the food such as from teaspoon to tablespoon and then to katori because up to 6 months of the age the baby was only breastfeeding and after 6 months we have started complementary feeding. So when we have started complementary feeding, when we have started giving additional food, that should be started very gradually. The quantity of the food, it should be increased gradually. So when the child gets older, when the child grows, he starts learning. He starts to accept food in a better way. So we should give time to the child to adapt gradually to larger quantities of food from teaspoon to tablespoon and then to katori. So amount of feed. Now third cardinal principle is consistency of the feed. So infants can eat pureed, mashed and semi-solid foods beginning at 6 months like mashed roti, mashed rice or boiled potatoes, fried potatoes, then kheer, halwa. Then by 8 months of the age, most infants can also eat finger food, the snacks which can be easily eaten by the child alone. Then by 12 months of the age, most children can eat the same type of the food which is consumed by the other family members. So by 12 months, we can offer food from the family pot. Then we can give snacks to the child. So snacks, they are the food which are eaten between the meals. Then food that cause choking such as nuts, grapes, raw carrots, they should be avoided. And for smaller children, the food should not contain particulate matter that may trigger gag reflex or vomiting. So this was about the consistency of the feed. Now fourth cardinal principle is frequency of the feeding. So on an average, a healthy breastfeed infant needs complementary feeding food 2 to 3 times per day at 6 to 8 months of the age and 3 to 4 times per day at 9 to 24 months. Now for children 12 to 24 months of the age, additional nutritious snacks such as piece of fruit should also be offered 1 to 2 times per day. Now hygiene. Now good hygiene and proper handling of the food should be practiced to prevent children from any kind of the infections and malnutrition. Good hygiene is very important. So simple hygienic practice, they can include washing hands before preparation of the food and washing hands before every feeding. Then serve only fresh and cooked vegetables. And the cooked food, it should not be kept for more than 3 hours. Then use clean utensils, then cover food properly, then avoid use of feeding bottles. So these are some of the simple hygienic practice which should be adopted by every family. Then last cardinal principle is helping the child. Now feeding the infant and children, it should be an active, engaging and interactive affair. In many families, we have seen that often the food is left in front of the child to eat alone. Now this approach is not at all appropriate. Parents should be actively participating. They should be actively participating. They should actively engage with the child in feeding. They should make the child sit on their lap and feed them with great affection and love in small proportion with spoon or with small morsels. So this feeding should be an interactive process. It should be an active engaging process and the parents should actively participate in this process. They should adopt the child. They should make the child sit on their lap or they should sit by the side of the child and feed them with their own hands with great affection and love in small proportions, either with spoon or with their own hand. So these are some of the 6 cardinal factors which are to be considered while feeding the child. With this, we complete with our topic, normal diet. Thank you.